Hello and welcome to another Teck Campus Coffee live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Teck directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Teck, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Teck is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie. Let's talk to our guests now. So I'm going to introduce our two guest speakers. So we have Sarah Timmins. She's an occupational health nurse at our trail operations with a nursing degree from the University of Alberta. And our other guest is Harrison Kloke. He's an occupational hygienist at our Elkview Operations. He's got a degree in occupational health and safety from Ryerson. So maybe we'll start off with Sarah. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, I can do that. So I'm an occupational health nurse. I was actually a registered nurse working on the floor in all kinds of hospital settings since I started being a nurse. So I did that for many, many years and kind of became interested in health and safety when I had a needle stick injury. Didn't really recognize much about health and safety at the time. It was funny to me that we had a whole division and department for health and safety, but I didn't know much about it. So that kind of piqued my interest. And so from there, I started looking for jobs in that area. And I actually landed a job in healthcare as an occupational health nurse. And I was able to respond to any health worker who had a needle stick injury or had a communicable disease exposure. So that kind of got the ball rolling for me. And so you can be an occupational health nurse informally, but you really need to be certified in it. So it is a specialty in nursing. It takes an additional 2 years after your degree to get that certification. I applied to Teck kind of on a whim, and thank God they hired me because it's been just an amazing job, and I love it so much, and I'm just happy to be part of the team, and looking forward to all the work that Teck is putting in for occupational disease management. It's really up and coming, and it's the future of what we need to be doing as a company. We look at injuries, we look at safety, but how do we affect people's health long term? How can we prevent any issues with future health by protecting people and employees today? So I'm really happy to be here, and I hope you all will become interested in working at Teck as a company because it's amazing.
Thank you, Sarah. Before I move to Harrison, I'm just curious, what piqued your interest in applying at Teck, or how did you hear about us?
It's kind of a funny story because my husband's a pipe fitter, and we were both instructors at Red Deer College. So I was a nurse educator and also an occupational health nurse at Red Deer College in Alberta, and my husband was a pipe fitter instructor, and now he applied for a pipe fitting job here. We were just looking for a change of scenery and to try something new. And I then saw a job for an occupational health nurse, and I applied and I got it. So it really was out of luck, really. And it just looked like an amazing opportunity, and I was right. It was.
That's great. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us today, because I think it is really great to hear just what other opportunities are available within your profession, right? That might not be the more traditional route. So we'll hear lots more from Sarah, but I'll move it over to Harrison. And can you just introduce yourself to the group and give an overview of what got you started at Teck and what you do?
Thanks, Lena. So my name's Harrison, everyone. I hail originally from a small town just outside Toronto, Whitby, Ontario. So coming out to BC was a really big jump for me. I started out as a co-op at Teck. I was our Occupational Health and Hygiene co-op at Elkview Operations. That term was originally only supposed to be 4 months in length, and then I'd be returning to school. What happened though is I really thought I had a lot more that I could learn staying out here, and I ended up staying and extending my term to 16 months. And before I actually returned to school, I even had an offer secured to come back as Elkview's occupational hygienist, which was really exciting, and it's what I'm doing now. And like Sarah said, occupational disease and the management of those occupational exposures is a really core direction that we're moving in terms of health and safety.
Thanks, Harrison. And so I guess to further your comment on extending your co-op and then getting offered a full-time position, what do you think contributed to what you were doing at Elkview that was able to influence your supervisor to recommend you to be hired for a full-time 9 months extension after 4 months? Because sometimes that can obviously be a bit difficult if it's a position that was originally just 4 months to extend for another 9 months. So how did that come about? What kind of advice can you give the students?
Yeah, so securing that extension was it was definitely a challenge, but I think you just have to learn, and really willing to learn at our operations and think on your feet, and just go out there and take advantage of all the opportunities. Yeah, it was only a 4-month term to start, but yeah, after 3 months, I knew I wanted to stay, and I had so much more to learn. So it was really just showing that initiative that I wanted to extend, and having something to show for it in those 3 months that made it really easy for them to make that decision.
Yeah. And there is something to be said. We, as recruiters, we often talk to students about the length of work terms, and we do have a lot of students that ask, oh, can I come on for 4 months? And like I said, it is possible. Obviously, Harrison, you got hired on for 4 months to start,
yeah.
But there is so much value in having an 8-month work term or longer, just because especially if you're coming onto a mine site for the first time, just those first few months, you're really just getting your feet wet. You're getting used to the new work environment and working in this kind of setting. So by the time you're kind of comfortable, if you're only doing 4 months, well, then it's already time to leave. So if you have that longer co-op term, then you really get the opportunity to contribute as well, and really feel like you're contributing to the team. So I did see there was a question that came in the chat. And I think it was for Harrison. Adrian's asking, what projects and tasks were you working on as a co-op student?
Oh, as a co-op student, that's great. So I was doing actually a lot of noise mapping, and then we were also testing a new technology in our steam bay, which is our way that we wash all our trucks on site. And this technology used compressed air to clean the trucks. So anybody that knows a little bit about occupational hygiene, as soon as you're hearing compressed air, you're thinking, okay, what's particulate exposures when we're using this compressed air task? So I took it upon myself, after hearing about this technology that we were going to try, to set up the assessments, and those assessments were used in our final decision on that product. And that's what really kind of helped me stand out when I was looking for that extension, in that I went out and I took on this project and really did it self-directed.
Great, thank you. And maybe for Sarah, can you give some insight into what a co-op student role might look like in your department? What projects would they work on, or what would that look like?
So far at Trail, and I'm one of only 2 occupational health nurses Teck-wide. We have not had a co-op student in nursing, but we do also get hygiene co-op students. They get to be involved in so many things. And you're right, the amount of time you're on site is important, because it takes a while to get used to the different plants you're going to, and it is quite a learning curve, right? Especially, when you look at Trail, we have some different kind of exposures, and we've got lead, and we got zinc, we got arsenic, mercury, all kinds of crazy things. I remember our last hygiene student was able to use the Nanozan technology, very new technology for us, real-time monitoring with video, and this student was able to go out and do a lot of sampling using that technology and reviewing maybe where potential exposures were. I know they loved the work. I talked to this person quite often. We interacted, and they were also able to come out and do some hygiene counseling with our people that had lead exposures. So just a huge variety of work and all kinds of different things that you get to use. You get to utilize all that training you had in school to do with exposure limits and chemicals and exposures to other types of things, and get to really put that into action and do really good work with that. And like Harrison said, you can kind of take and do things on your own as well if you have a good idea about something. We generally like all these new ideas because that's what we're looking for, is new ideas and new information from students.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Great. And I'm just looking at the chat here. So we definitely encourage questions from students. That's great if you have lots of questions. Otherwise, I'll just roll with mine. But we do have one from Rita. It's for Harrison, I believe. And the question is, did you find that the occupational hygiene courses offered in your OHS program helped you prepare for your role at Teck?
Definitely. I mean, they give such a great foundation in terms of how to interpret the data at the end of the day. However, there's still going to be a lot that you're going to have to learn in the field. So while those do establish a pretty good foundation on how to take samples, how to read that data at the end, how to interpret that, how to apply some statistical methodologies, you're still going to have to learn to do a lot of stuff in the field. And one of the biggest things as a hygienist is we have to be able to adapt to our work environments. This is an operational mine, so some of the things that we need to do, we can't always do. So we have to adapt to those situations and find ways to work with that.
Great, thank you. Maybe just to continue with Harrison, and then I'll move for the same question to Sarah. But I'm curious, Harrison, what does your team like at Teck in the occupational hygiene world? I know the teams are fairly small, and it's a really good community of really strong professionals. So I'm just I'd like a little bit for you to tell us a little bit about what your team's like.
So my team here at Elkview is myself and our Occupational Health and Hygiene Coordinator. This is pretty typical of our steelmaking coal mines in the valley, in that there's going to be 2 people. And then sometimes we do get co-op as well. So that can bring us up to 3. And myself and the coordinator, Shanna Wills, we really complement each other, and we both take on a lot of the same work in assessing occupational exposures, but also control development as well. So everybody's able to work together on these things.
Great, and I'll put the same question to Sarah. I know you mentioned too, it's a fairly small team for you too, but what's the team environment like at Trail in your profession?
Sure. So I'm part of the health, safety, environment, and risk team. And that really has we have 9 safety coordinators that we work alongside. Our hygienist is Peter Kelly, and then we have 2 hygiene techs here, and our hygiene techs actually do a lot of the sampling and make sure that our in-plant sampling areas are working, and make sure that those are actually taking samples at the time. Sometimes they stop working, and they're out and about all through the plants. And also, we also work with the fire hall. So we actually have our first responders part of our team, and we also have risk to do with a risk person and also environmental. So ours is a little bit bigger. We're kind of one big happy family here, but it's still not a lot of people for 1,500 employees, plus we have contractors. So yeah, it's still a small group, but we're lucky here because we have the health center that we have access to as well.
Great, and so I'll continue with Sarah here. What do you enjoy about your role? What's your favorite part about coming to work?
Well, I actually really love going out and meeting people when they're working. So I love going to control rooms and doing a little bit about safety. I like to share health and safety information. So for me to get out and meet people is actually what I really love. Another thing I love is education. So, developing education for employees and workers that will help keep them safe, help prevent exposures, and what can they do to protect themselves at site. That's kind of why I love nursing. So right now with COVID, it isn't happening that way anymore. So hopefully in the future we can move back to that, and I can be out there visiting people in the plants and seeing what's going on. And just working with the hygienists and the hygiene techs is also just, it's been a learning curve for me as well to do with hygiene. It's huge.
Awesome, thank you. So I have a few questions that are coming in, which is great. So I'm going to just address Liam's question here. He's asking, Harrison, are you able to take us through a typical day at work?
I can't really say that there is a typical day. We do so much, and right now, because hygiene is growing so quickly, I won't say we have an immature program, but we are in that growth stage of our program. So we're constantly getting called on to do different types of assessments, whether we've got an asbestos concern from a worker on site, or maybe it's a sampling day, and maybe we're getting out and we're measuring for silica and noise on different similarly exposed groups. So there is no real typical day. However, it can involve time in the office, doing more administrative work. It can involve a lot of time out in the field, and that's definitely where we want to spend the majority of our time, is out with our workforce and collecting that really solid data that we need to make decisions.
Great, thank you. And I have another question here from Adrian. This is for both of you, but we'll have Harrison answer first. So the question is, what is life like in the Kootenays? What's the work-life balance like? What kind of support and resources do you have in the communities that you live?
Yeah, the Kootenays have been really amazing. Coming from Toronto area, this was my first time in the mountains when I came out as a co-op, and I fell in love with it. So right near Elkview, actually, is the small resort town of Fernie, British Columbia. Really beautiful town that I get to live in while I'm here. So the life is amazing. You go out for hikes after work. You can be up a mountain by just after dinner time. On the weekends in the winter, there's multiple ski hills that you can take advantage of. To address like the work-life balance, definitely I think that's super important at Teck. In the Elk Valley, at least, all of our coal mines and the schedule that the co-ops work on is what's called the EDO schedule. The idea here being that you will work the full 40 hours a week, but rather than work 8-hour work days, Monday through Thursday, you work 9-hour days, and then you get every other Friday off. So every other week you get a 3-day weekend. So the balance is phenomenal. You know, it lets you go on camping trips, it lets you go on weekend vacations, and it just gives you that extra day every other week, which I find is super helpful. Support and resources, I think the Valley is really great for that. The co-op networks that co-ops get to develop while they're here, because we hire so many co-ops, there's always a group of them willing to look and get together and go for a hike or something like that. So you can meet people out here, and you've got that support network.
Absolutely. Thanks. Thank you. And yeah, I can attest that too. I live in Fernie as well. And just from not a co-op perspective, but someone with kids in the Elk Valley and young children, it is still a very young community with lots of families, great schools. We have a hospital. So the infrastructure is really great too, to support all those things that you might need if you're moving out here with a family as well. So I'll put the question over to Sarah too, if you can tell us a bit what life is like in Trail and just work-life balance for you.
Well, you know, it sounds like we should be working for the Kootenay tourism board here, but
I know.
You know, it is no lie that when I came through here about 10 years ago on a vacation, I said to myself, one day I'm going to live in the Kootenays, and here I am. So Trail is, if you see the one picture there, when you can see the plant up on the hill, that plant has been there for over 100 years. And so it was built way back in the late 1800s, and the town of Trail grew around that plant there. So, it's been there a long time, and it is a big thing. But, our employees actually don't all live in Trail. There's Roslyn is up the hill, and there's a world-class ski resort there. That people love to go skiing, and there's cross-country skiing and snowshoeing in the winter. And in the summer, you can see that the Columbia River goes right through town, and it also goes through Castlegar, which is another town that's only 20 minutes from Teck site. So, you could live in numerous communities here, and you can get the farming side if you live in Fruitvale. Like, it's just an amazing place to live. There's tons of lakes. Kootenay Lake's amazing. We have a tertiary hospital in Trail, so that means we do surgeries, we have CAT scans and MRIs, so we have the capability to treat anybody in the Kootenays that may need that kind of care. So that's excellent. When COVID's not on, we're only 3 hours from Spokane from Trail, and love to go down to the States. You can hit up concerts and go shopping, whatever you love to do. So the Kootenays is amazing. I mean, we have bears walking through town. That's how out in the wilderness we are. So I love it, and I'm just so happy to be able to live here.
Yeah, you can definitely tell when you ask anyone, I think, living in the Kootenays about how much they love living here. They'll just go on they can just go on for forever. But we do, not to exclude our other operations too. For example, Highland Valley Copper. We also hire co-op students for that operation, and they're located in Logan Lake, which is really close to Kamloops. So that is Kamloops, BC, is about a 4-hour drive from Vancouver, and it's a bit of a bigger city, especially if you're talking to us folks here from Trail and Fernie. But it's about 100,000 people, and so you have a bit more of those city living comforts, but still that kind of community feel. And there's smaller communities around Kamloops too, like Merritt and Ashcroft, that have more of that kind of smaller community atmosphere as well. So and then of course Vancouver and Calgary would be more bigger city centers where for some co-op students that they would be working there too.
Yeah, one thing to add about that is because I work out of the Vancouver head office, and the one thing I noticed about COVID is since we're all working from home, we get to see each other's places and their backgrounds. And the one thing I get jealous about is most of us are living in these tiny condos in Vancouver and can't afford to buy a place. But everybody in I reach out to in the Elk Valley and at Trail, they all have these nice houses, big living rooms, big kitchens. Everything looks so nice. They got a lot of space. So that's one of the big advantages, I think, of relocating is you can, there's a realistic opportunity to buy a place and which is quite different. So we do have the benefits of the city, but also we have a lot of other benefits that we may not have here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'm just looking at the questions again. There's another question from Adrian wondering, are there any opportunities to visit or collaborate with other sites and exchange ideas? Maybe Harrison, you can respond to that one, and then Sarah, if you have any additional comments, you can go after Harrison.
Yeah, so our mine sites are constantly sharing ideas in the Elk Valley. Even as a co-op, this was one of the co-op projects that I didn't mention, but I got to go up to our Fording River operations, which is our largest mine in the Elk Valley, to assess the use of a temporary local exhaust ventilation system for welders. And so there's always opportunities to visit or collaborate with our other sites, especially within the hygiene team and occupational health as a whole. We're such a small team still that we're constantly collaborating to tackle these challenges that we're trying to face. Looking to see if has somebody dealt with this at another site already? Okay, if they have, how can we adopt that to our site?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I agree. We do collaborate a lot. I know that I work with Sam Hornquist. She's the occupational health nurse over in Cole, and we talk a lot. And the possibility of going and visiting other sites is real. I know that our hygienist got to go to Alaska to one of our mines up there where we get a lot of our product, or a lot of our dirt that we burn. And so that was an amazing trip to be able to go to Alaska and see Red Dog and what's going on there. So yeah, there's opportunity. I've been to Vancouver a bunch of times before COVID for meetings, loved it. Like just the ability to go and do those things and visit the city, it's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely think for health and safety within Teck, there's a lot of collaboration across the teams. And I just want to note too with Harrison, I don't know if we mentioned this at the beginning, but our steelmaking coal operations in the Elk Valley, we actually do have 4 active mine sites. So Harrison works at our Elkview Operations, but we do have 3 other operations. So there is a lot of collaboration between the health and safety teams within our steelmaking coal operations. And then as Sarah mentioned too, there's collaboration across the different business units too, even with our operations in other countries. Okay, so one more question here from Mashoud. I'm a recent graduate from a health and safety program with about 1 year of related work experience. Are there opportunities for new graduates at Teck? Currently, I see a job advertisement on your website, but it requires a five years experience. So I can address this at a higher level, and then Harrison or Sarah, if you want to jump in, go ahead. But just for any of our job postings, we obviously recruit based on the business needs. So there are opportunities for new graduates within our health and safety program. Or departments, as we know, even just with Harrison is a great example of bringing a new graduate on, but it will really depend on the business need and when we need these folks. So we recruit when we need to, and we have vacancies, and for new graduates, there's not necessarily like a once or twice a year intake where we go to the schools and hire directly during May or when people would be graduating. So the best advice is to monitor our career site. There's opportunities to set up job alerts so that you get emails directly into your inbox when there are positions that become available, and just look out for those.
Yeah, I'm just on the website right now. There's a couple of positions, but they may not be exactly what you're looking for. I got a superintendent health and safety and whatnot, so certain things may not align in terms of experience or whatnot. But I guess the main advice I give the students is this: it's not a matter of if we're going to have a position that you're qualified for, it's when. We have such recruitment needs over the next however many years that we're going to be growing our teams. We're going to be hiring new grads. That's why we're doing campus coffee in every field out there. So so definitely encourage you, just like Lena said, let's just follow the site. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. We can't get down to 0 positions, as Lena knows very well.
At Trail, we were having a conversation the other day. It's funny that you asked that question about experience, because we were talking about if safety coordinators, looking at junior safety coordinator positions, really for succession planning. When you look, some of our coordinators will be retiring. And sometimes it's hard to find people with the experience you need, but like, what if we brought on junior coordinators and were able to have them come on the site and work as that kind of modified safety coordinator position and get them trained for the ability to take over for somebody who may be retiring. Those thoughts are out there. So keep watching. Like they've said, sign up to make sure you get notifications about job postings. Listen, I applied for this occupational health nurse job, not fully certified. Another thing about Teck is they love education. It's a company that values education, and they actually have paid for me to be fully certified in occupational health nursing. So they hired me with the understanding that I would do the work, and they gave me a chance when I wasn't 100% qualified for what they wanted. So don't give up, keep looking, apply for jobs. If you think that there's something you may have value, if you get an interview, you can sell yourself, especially if you're keen and you're smart and you know what you're coming into, and do some research.
Great. So hopefully we've piqued your interest in mining, especially in coming from your studies and what you're currently studying at school. It's just, I think, really great that we had such good attendance and great questions from students. So as Misaki said, keep them coming if you'd like to know more from us and our speakers. But we did also just want to showcase some quotes from students who have worked at Teck and what they have to say about their work experience. So you can read those up on the slide here. A couple of things we did want to mention, which I did note earlier as well, is that in terms of our recruitment, we do hire students 3 times a year. So I did mention that at the beginning too, but we do hire in January, in May, and in September. So it's just good to keep an eye out for those postings. We do post them on our website on jobs.teck.com. And we do also work with the campus co-op offices. So we do have really great relationships with the different co-op programs across the Canadian universities. So we do work with those offices too to understand what kind of students are interested in our positions and to post jobs and things like that. So we encourage you to work with your co-op offices as well to learn more about opportunities at Teck. And currently we are recruiting for January. So we are in the middle of filling those positions and I think doing a few more interviews to fill a few more positions for January. And then we will be posting our positions that we're recruiting for in May, likely around February time. So that's kind of the next time we'll be beginning our active recruitment. So make sure that if you are interested to, like we said, set up those career alerts, check our website and get in touch with any of your co-op programs as well if it's relevant to your university.
Yeah, great. And we're, last I checked yesterday, we're sort of more towards the tail end of recruitment for January. So I don't imagine there's going to be a ton of positions left. We got a lot of applications. So really the focus is more, come 3rd week of January, look out for the positions for summer, because we'll definitely be hiring again. Mm-hmm. Now, for all of you, one thing is that with our campus coffee, hopefully you learned something. What we want to do is to ensure that we provide value to students going forward. We have, so Fluke posted a link to our survey. We'll email you as well this afterwards, because some people can't access the meeting chat, we've learned. So, but the main thing is this. Your feedback on today's campus coffee is going to be incredibly valuable for us to determine whether we do more next year and what topics. Next week, we will be hosting a live webinar on business. So you can tell your friends in finance or in HR, the two guest speakers. That would be great. And like I said, with your feedback, we will create more sessions that potentially would be of relevance to you and or your friends. Now, a few of us, I know we're getting close to the end of time. What we tend to do is we stick around. And so if you're available to stick around, feel free to stick around for a little bit. We'll try to get through these questions and any more questions that come in. I'm not sure if Sarah or Harrison has to drop off, but if you have to, then yeah, drop off when you need to. But Lynn and I should be able to stick around for a little bit. All right, should we go in order here? There was a question. Okay, well, maybe we'll go back to the one about South America, Spanish, I think I saw that one. So for the positions or selection of positions in Canada, to the best of my knowledge, no, we haven't really looked at that as, but longer term, we do recognize that, we are international and we do have these opportunities, and there's a lot of work. I guess it also depends on the role. So there are some roles, especially co-op positions, that can potentially be working with our engineers or our professionals in Chile. And if that's the case, then Spanish would be helpful. So that's sort of it, but I wouldn't consider that a big factor for the co-op positions, at least. Does anybody want to tackle Adrian's question about, I don't know if either of you had a chance to look at the state sustainability report, because I haven't had a chance to look at that, but looking at the sustainability report, the occupational diseases cases gives us stats from BC. How does that compare to your global operations? I don't know can either of you tackle that, and if not, that's fine. We can get some information and get back to Adrian.
Yeah, well, I'd have to look into that a little bit. I know occupational disease is really underreported. So at this point, when you look at occupational disease reporting, it doesn't always translate through. Physicians really have to be on board with recognizing occupational disease and reporting it as such. Otherwise, it can just get lost in, maybe somebody was reported with lung cancer, but it was never, ever tied into being maybe an occupational related lung cancer. So the numbers are kind of hard to to come up with. I know that you got to recognize there's going to be more occupational disease deaths than there is by accident or injury or safety issues. So we know that it's a bigger problem than what is actually being reported at this point. So.
Yeah, and just to speak to that point too, Sarah, our occupational disease, and I'm looking at the sustainability report right now, that's based off insurance claims. So we also have to look at like the data set that we're trying to pull this information from. So as our programs grow and we get more mature, we'll have a better idea of what our occupational disease burden actually is.
Great, thank you. We have a question I skipped, I guess. I didn't see. So Bobby has asked, what are some of the typical health and safety concerns you deal with in this industry?
I'll go first here. The biggest one in mine operations, and this is consistent across all companies that are in mining, is heavy vehicle, light vehicle interaction. We deal with a lot of very large equipment on our sites, and there's often other equipment working in the same area. So when you're, operating a piece of equipment that's the size of a house, any outcome that comes from an accident is quite severe. So that's probably the biggest thing that we're still trying to come to grips with in this industry.
And at Trail, we kind of, our number one actual exposure on site is noise, which is very common in industry, as you all know. But secondary would come our lead exposure. Working with lead, you can get, it does actually get into the body through whether you ingest it or breathe it in. And we monitor our workers very closely by taking blood samples, but that's post-exposure monitoring. So what we need to do is do the more of the sampling out in site using the NanoZen technology to know where the problems are. Maybe we're doing a job wrong. Maybe we have some machines that aren't acting as they should and putting out more fume than they need to. So noise and lead are our top at Trail Operations, and very interesting for co-op students to come into that. Lead is not a common exposure anymore, and Trail, we actually are one of the largest zinc and lead smelters in the world.
Yeah, from my understanding, you guys are like 5 smelters on one footprint, which makes it super interesting and complex. I know it's very, very interesting for chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, health and safety, you name it. So yeah. A unique place on the planet. I can see people are typing. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I saw people were typing here. All right, so is it Mashoud has asked, can new graduates apply for co-op positions, or do you need students? Okay, maybe I'll answer this one. So for our co-op positions, we want to just hire students in co-op positions for a couple of good reasons. But the main one really is we want to ensure we support the students. And so what happens is once you hire a new grad for a co-op position, the co-op position disappears because that new grad's going to stick in with it for years and years. And all of a sudden we have fewer positions. And if every company did that, there would be no positions for students. And there are many reasons that are attractive to hire a graduate for a co-op position. They got more experience, the availability longer, all these kind of things. But one thing we're trying to be very disciplined about is making sure we save positions for students, because we understand how important it is for the careers of young people to get that experience and that exposure. So yeah, short answer is, that was a long answer, but the short answer is no. So new graduates, yes, we will have positions. Our co-op positions are very regular, obviously, just like co-op programs. So we recruit 4 months in advance for January starts, May starts, and September starts. New graduate, it's as needed basis, or as a co-op student like Harrison sort of stands out, like, all right, we'll just make a position for him. We want to keep him. So that's sort of how we operate in terms of the new grads. All right, Adrian's question. Oh, no, it's not a question there. Okay, somebody's typing though here. Irfan's typing. All right. How different is each jobs? Okay. Okay. So how different is this type of job in Vancouver compared to locations in terms of growth and development? Since Vancouver doesn't have mines. That's an interesting question. I don't know if either of you guys can answer this one. What do you think?
I'll take a stab at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the role is definitely going to be much different than at the mines. So operational mind, you're going to be out sampling, you're going to be doing exposure risk assessments, you're going to be recommending controls, whereas a job in Vancouver may be more policy and program development, so that end of things. I think there's opportunities for growth and development in both, but at the same time, I think you really need to work at the mine and understand our operations at like a core of what we do as a business.
One thing I should also add is in Richmond, we have our technology center there, where they are, once again, it's a very industrial setting. And when that place is going, it's a very active place. And so I don't know what the team looks like there, but there is also that. Like we're quite big, and there are a lot of different opportunities at Teck. But that's one of the locations we haven't really talked about. But I do know in a good year, I've seen them hire well over 60 students all of a sudden, like when they ramp up. Like it's a very interesting place.
Yeah, just one more comment for me, I guess, in terms of the growth and development. Like both Misaki and Harrison have said, there are lots of different opportunities working at one of our operations or working at our head offices. And yeah, lots of different ways that your career path can go. There is definitely something to be said, even working in our corporate offices, where if you come to the corporate office, let's say from an operation or from site experience, that you just have a bit more of that holistic view about what it's actually like to be in the operations. That doesn't mean that that's necessarily a requirement for a role in Vancouver, but there are, we often see people get experience at our operations and then move into the head offices in some cases. And obviously then we have positions that are just hired directly into Vancouver too. So
yeah, you bring up a great point there. So some of our more senior people in management, so like we've got VPs in health and safety. I know our director came from South America, and she was in operations for the longest time, and she's decided to change her career and move to Vancouver, and so so once again, there are different types of positions, but as Harrison suggested, for this type of role, it's very important to get that field experience. Adrian's question about being camp-based, or do people commute? So for all of our operations in Vancouver, in BC, it's commute. And so for all the co-op positions, let's say, for Calgary, like everything is commute. Obviously with COVID, things change a little bit. There's flexibility. I mean, depending on your location, depending on your role, maybe working from home. I know a lot of us are. And then, so the only sort of camp-based would be Red Dog, or potentially Chile, but right now we're not hiring for those for students. For new grads, potentially, but in general, for Red Dog, it's a zinc mine. It's going to be more Americans since it's in Alaska, and Chile would be it's a whole other beast in terms of that's a lot of recruitment. But I don't know all the different living situations there. Anything else to add there, Lena? Am I missing something?
I would just say that for a lot of our positions in the Elk Valley, for example, for the steelmaking coal operations or trail or Kamloops or HVC near Kamloops, it's commute, and it is good if you have your own vehicle. So it's not a requirement, but because of, again, where we live and operate, it definitely, there's no like SkyTrain or subway system or anything like that to get around. So it's definitely helpful if you have a vehicle to get around. So
there were new rotations I remember hearing about, right? So at coal, are there certain shifts like that? Because I know some students are not just doing the EDO. I think there's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off shifts as well, or not?
Well, right now with the with just the flexibility in terms of working from home, and again, just during COVID, a lot of the mine sites are doing, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, basically, so that anyone that, and Harrison can probably speak to that more even, but anyone that is on site, they're kind of in different, I think they're grouping it by colors, like the blue team and the green team, and then you're on site for 2 weeks and then you're off site. But that is a unique situation right now. Otherwise, working at least in the coal operations, as it's the earned day off schedule for most for most positions. And there are students, for example, in the mining department, the mining engineering department, they might be doing survey work and be doing different schedules, but generally it's their day off schedule. And again, we're just in obviously a very weird time right now with working from home and everything else. So it's, yeah, the schedules are a bit different than we see on in any other normal year.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I pitched the last call for questions, and it seems like we've answered them all, which is great. So once again, thank you all for participating. And thank you, Sarah and Harrison, for joining us and providing your perspectives. It was great. Fluka in the background, Lena. So for